I'll introduce myself as well. My name's Aria. I'm a solutions consultant also, like David, here at MAP. I've spent the last few years of my life helping big brands pull together all their first-party data and really leverage it for marketing automation, reporting, analytics, all the fun stuff that we all love. And today we're going to be talking about customer obsession and why we think it's really important to be customer obsessed in 2021. And I want to open up with this slide here that basically tells a story of two different forces at play here. Now, on the left-hand side, we've got all of our consumer priorities. And these are all the things that really, consumers are looking out for. These are all the things that they really care about. And on the right-hand side, we have all of our brand priorities. So as marketers, as analysts, as operation managers, these are all the things that we care about. And really what we're trying to do here, what's actually happening between these two raging forces, is this micro moment in the middle. And that's when these forces meet together and are supposed to come together in harmony. And that's really where the job of marketers and analysts really comes into play, because it's our job in order to pull all of these forces together and get them to line up nicely with this micro moment. And I know when you're probably looking at this slide, you're thinking there's a lot of different forces at play and we don't really think about all of them. Hopefully, some of the things that we're going to be talking about today are going to allow us to basically think about how we can pull together all of these different aspects and priorities together so it's a bit more manageable in order to actually get this micro moment to be something that's harmonious and fluid, let's say. Now, my colleague Rick put it really nicely when he said this, and I'm not just saying this because he's my boss, but he said that the concepts of campaigns and segmentations are very rational and easy to understand, and that's the things that we really rely on in data marketing. However, they're based on something that's extremely complicated and often irrational, and that is human beings. And what that means is that whilst we're looking at this and we're trying to come up with a scientific way to answer it, there's never actually going to be a perfect answer to all of this. And that's something to really bear in mind. So the reason that we're called marketing practitioners is just that. We're always practicing it. We're never going to completely master it. There's always room for improvement. And that's why you need some type of model or some type of way of working that continuously allows you to improve. And that's where hopefully, as you're going to see today, customer obsession can really help you with this. Now, when we talk of humans, it's really important to bear in mind where humans and consumers mainly are at today. And I think, regardless of what we all do in our professional lives, we're all also consumers in the rest of our life too. And I think we can all agree with me when I say that as consumers, we've got these really high expectations for the brands that we choose to engage with. Like we've come to really expect a lot of it, and particularly with what's been happening lately and the vast amount of information that we have at our fingertips, we've become so empowered to be able to actually have this expectation of our brands. We're expecting these brands to deliver on our every whim and our every moment and our every need. And this was something that was true before COVID-19 and definitely is going to still be true afterwards as well. And I think particularly with what we've seen with the pandemic, it's the type of stuff that a lot of us have been hearing. It accelerates these concepts. It accelerates these digital shifts. And I think this is where more than ever, we're expecting consumers to expect brands to serve their very needs. There's only one aspect to that though, and it's that their expectations are changing constantly and quickly as well. And with these expectations changing so fast, the trade-off is there's some benefits to us. We're using a lot more digital devices, generating a lot more data. And that means that as marketers in the data marketing world, we've got this access to all this data that we previously may not have had before. And that really homes in on the fact that there's a lot of people who previously were only using these physical stores are now using digital devices too. So we've opened up a whole new cohort of customers that we didn't have access to. And we really need to think about how we can tap into that data and close that loop. But there are some problems that come with this as well. The main one being that these expectations are not just being set by your brand, but also by every other brand, including the big dogs in your industry. So that bar of these expectations continues to rise for not only your brand, but all the other brands. And it's actually just being artificially inflated by the biggest brands out there. So like your Googles, your Amazons, your Microsofts. And I think all of us, if you think about the industry that you're in, think about the biggest player in your industry. And really those are the ones that are setting that bar for you. So these expectations you've got to actually keep up with them. And actually, if you are the biggest player in the industry, doesn't matter. Take a look at any other industry and take a look at their biggest player because they're also setting that bar for you. So we really need a way to keep up with this ever-growing bar. And the other problem that comes for this is that if you don't get it quite right, you can end up putting stress on your customer by making it more difficult, or you have to put like some sort of function on them where they have to figure out how to interact with you. And we don't want to be doing that. We don't want to be putting any further stress on our customer whatsoever, especially during a pandemic when everyone's that little bit of extra stress as well. You got to get it just right. That's where enter stage left customer obsession. And that's our answer to this. That's the what can we do about this problems that you're putting forward to us, Aria. And that's where Forrester has come up with what may seem like another buzzword, but it's something they truly believe in. And here at MAP, it's something that we completely agree with. We think everyone should look to embrace and adopt this ideology of customer obsession. Now, it's more than just being aware of your customers and engaging with them. It's much more than that, because I think we're all aware of our customers. We know they're there. It's about taking it that next level and leveraging the insights that we have on our customers, using all of that data that we have to make all your business decisions. That means from top to bottom, you need to start thinking about how you can be insight driven and within every aspect of your business. And with customer obsession as well, there's some other aspects to it as well. There's a lot to read up on it. I'm only going to touch on a few key things in this webinar that we're doing. But one of the aspects as well is that it means that you need to be fast with your insights as well. So you've got all this rich data out there, and you need something that's going to be able to deliver this data to you quickly. And that means that you can make changes quickly and see if they work. And I've even heard some people say that you need to be more faster rather than more perfect, which is questionable English for me. But the idea there is basically that it's not something that you need to go away and think about these changes for a long time before you deliver them. Try and deliver them quicker so you can see the results first and move on in that aspect. And lastly, this one that I've put here is the idea that you need to be truly connected. This is a really important one. All this data that you have has to be linked back to a specific customer. It can't just be aggregated because you're going to need to be able to leverage it and engage with those customers on an individual basis as well. Now, how can you become customer obsessed? Well, there is this fantastic model that kind of explains a good way of going about it. And it's a four-step process. So the first is that you need to listen to your customers. You need to take all this data that you've got and really start thinking about hearing what your customers are saying, whether that be their direct actions or actually just their behavior as well. Then you need to use this to lead your brand strategy. And that's where you need to come up with some sort of top level strategy that your brand is going to be going for that really focuses in on what your brand means to your customers. Then it's about connecting all of these dots together to generate a brand experience that's based around your customers. So that's when we can really start thinking about operationally and from a marketing perspective and that automation, putting together that experience that's going to be customer obsessed. And the last one I've put here is then calibrating, so regrouping, and then straight back to step one, because this is a cycle. So just as I was saying at the beginning about you're never going to perfect this, this is always something that grows because it's based on the industry. This is something that you need to be continually doing and continually improving the way that you run your marketing at the moment. Now, I'll take a quick look at the data that we've got to play here with. And that's where you can't really talk about this without touching on zero-party data. Now, zero-party data is all the information that a customer will intentionally and proactively share with your brand. This can include preference data, purchase intentions, or personal context, but basically, it's all the stuff that your customers are telling you actively. Now, this differs from first-party data, which is still information that you collect about your customers, but in that case, it's more usually like behavioral or implied interest. So this is where we really think about like your web tracking and your actions within the store and so on. Second party data can be thought of as someone else's first party data. Great analogy that I like. And that's when you buy it directly from the source. And lastly, third party data is aggregated from multiple sources and normally purchased from marketplace, and you use it to merge in with your existing data. So examples of this includes companies like Experian that will provide like demographic data, and you can overlay that onto your data as well. Now, there is a place for second and third party data. We personally see, or I personally see the most value in first and zero party data, especially as we're seeing this shift away from third party data and advertising and so on. And that's because with zero party data particularly, if your customer trusts you enough to be sharing this data with you, then this is where you should really be making the most of this. And this is so key in customer obsession, because that first step is listening to your customers. And if you know that your customers are like actively willing to tell you this information and tell you what they think about you, that also means there's a good chance they're going to actively want to hear from you as well. So you should really be focusing on what they're saying and then using that to deliver it back to them as well. As well, we need to think about the challenges that marketers are facing. So this is based off of a survey by Forrester when they went and asked marketers what were the primary challenges they were facing at the moment. And the first one was 42% of the marketers were saying one of their primary challenges was integrating online and offline data. And that's where I've done a whole webinar on this called the offline cookie. It's this concept that we need to be able to start thinking about closing that loop as well. And we'll touch on that in a moment as well. Another 42% of marketers were saying that one of their primary challenges is understanding how customers behave as they move across the different devices as well. It's a very common one. We can all kind of relate to that as well. And the last one is 49% using these insights for measurements. So actually attributing the performance and measuring what's happening can be more difficult for marketers than simply just using it for marketing automation. They're both important. You need to be able to actually automate it and use it to engage with your customers, but also as well, we need to be measuring it. We need to be able to understand where that attribution has come from. As you probably guessed, I'm not going to leave you with all of these problems and then not pose a solution. That's where we get the invention of the CDP. Now, a CDP, also known as a customer data platform, is basically our ability to then import all of this data into one single place. And put most simply, the value of a CDP is like twofold. One, to get a single view of all of your customers by connecting all of these dots and bringing all of your data into one place. That's where you can really start thinking about your first and zero party data, because we're able to bring in stuff like your web behavior and all of your customer preferences into here and actually have it linked back to specific customers. And the second is then by being able to use all this data for analytics and then also being able to use it for powering your marketing campaigns. And this is really made easy by a CDP because it gives you that information all in one place. And hopefully it's going to allow you as well to leverage it and analyze the results as well. So the CDP is really the answer that I'm putting forward to all the problems that we've been discussing so far. And this is going to be so important when it helps you to pose your brand to be well positioned for this aspect of customer obsession. Now we need to think about what CDP is actually going to help us bring. So it's more than just taking the data that you've currently got, because currently you've probably got in your own data, you've got your CRM and you've got your preferences and your transactions. So this is your data as well. Now, where a CDP comes in is it's going to allow you to take that data and then enhance it with all this additional data as well. So this is where it's really useful to have your CDP like ours is, where it's brought in as part of your engagement platform as well, because then you get access to things like web behavior, app behavior, ad impressions. It's all bulked into this one place. And most importantly, it's all linked back to that single customer as well. So you can see already this is starting to be really useful for being able to power through the first aspect of customer obsession of listening to them, but then also through steps 2 to 4 as well, because you can start thinking about engaging with your customers based on this data and then also being able to analyze it. Now, if your CDP as well is like ours and is part of getting really advanced and is part of a platform that allows you to get deep customer insights, this is something that we bring with our map intelligence platform. That's when you can really take all that first party data and enhance it even further by bringing additional insights. So these are some of the examples that I put because this is what our platform does. So we can start thinking about stuff like profile scoring, RFM modeling, and predictions like likelihood of spend, likelihood of churn. So there's a lot of really powerful insights that you can get if you fuse this through with powerful AI and start thinking about really leveraging this first party data. And all of this is really useful when it comes to customer obsession, because as you can see, these are all concepts that are very powerful when it comes to really being able to focus on your customer and deliver that fantastic customer obsessed experience to them. Now, my last point is, what's the reward? Is there any benefit to it of this to us, or is it just we're doing this out the graciousness of our hearts? Well, as you can see here by this this tenuously linked stock photo I've chosen, the concept is all about.
Aria, we've lost your sound. Sorry about this, ladies and gents. I'm assuming no one else can hear Aria now. It's not just a problem local to me. If you can, please shout.
No,
He's
can't
gone.
Yeah, okay. We need to Aria, we've lost your audio, my friend.
Have I come back immediately?
You're back now. Yeah, just go back about a minute.
Oh dear.
You
my Zoom is not having much luck today.
remember
Sorry, guys.
Tommy Cooper? Tommy Cooper used to use the hats, didn't he? And that would get him his train of thought back.
This
You're
reference has gone over my head, David.
Yeah, you're too young, sadly, but look him up afterwards.
Yeah,
Did you lose me at this slide?
Yeah, just
Yes.
the reward. Yeah.
Brilliant, excellent. Well, what I was saying there is that with reward, it's all about growth here. So what we're seeing and what Forrester is seeing, and a lot of other sources are seeing, is that organizations who can articulate this idea of being based on the data and on the insights, so really being that insights-driven business, have much higher annual growth than those that are struggling to leverage their insights as well. So we're seeing that organizations that really take the power of customer obsession and really using that with the CDP and the rest of the data are having basically what they're managing to do is keep pace with startups, which is something that's really incredible because we all know that like more mature organizations, the growth slows. It's just part of the natural business cycle. But if what we're saying here is that we're giving you an opportunity to be able to grow at the same pace as startups, that's something that I think we can all get really excited about. That's it from me. I'm going to pass over now to my colleague David, who's going to be taking us through our digital marketing playbook.
Great, thanks, Aria. Hopefully everyone can hear me again now. Before we get into this section, we actually have a poll that we're going to run just quickly. And really just finding out if everyone on the call sees benefits of a CDP. So obviously at MAP, we really do, but it'd be good to find out what everyone else thinks.
There's a lot of people on the call, so we'll leave this up for a good sort of 90 seconds or so, I suggest, David. And if anyone can't see it, it's probably because you're not using the applet, you're in the browser or you've dialed in. So the options here, just for anyone that can't see the poll, it's can you see the benefits of a CDP and how one could help your business? And the options are yes, we've got one. Yes, I wish we had one. I'm not too sure. And no. So if you can't see the poll and you want to message your answer, then feel free to put that in the chat. But hopefully most of you can. So can you see the benefits of a CDP? Yes, we have one. Yes, I wish we had one. Sort of, but I'm not sure. Or no. It's been going for a minute. I suggest we just leave it until, if we get 10 seconds with no more votes going in, that's normally when I choose to end the poll. Does that make sense, David?
Sounds good.
Yeah. So
It's like countdown, nervously awaiting the results.
it is. It's very.
David, next time you do this, you're going to have the countdown music going on.
Yeah. Well, what I need to say to you is just Google Tommy Cooper hats routine in case this ever happens again after the event. You will enjoy it. But I am showing my age. Right. I think we're just about done. So shall I share the results, David?
Sounds good.
So share results. There we go.
That's good to see. So look, great. About 15 people on the call already have one implemented. That's amazing. I mean, there's lots of strategy that you can start applying when you have one of those. So that's really good for those people. And the people who really wish that they had one, also great. Obviously, lots of CDPs out there, something that we do really well at MAP. Hopefully over the next strategies as well, you're going to be thinking about how we can apply some of the things that Aria mentioned and actually put those into play. So that's actually what we'll be doing in the next phase then, looking at how we can apply some of those tactics into your marketing. And what we've done recently is put together a digital marketing playbook. And this is where you get access to around 100 of these tactics. Well, it started as 100, and that was a few months ago now. But since then, it's turned into a community. And we have loads and loads of people collaborating, adding their own ideas in there. And the tactics are growing and growing. So definitely worth checking out. I guess someone's probably going to put a link into the chat in a second, so you can get access to there. And we'll put that back in again after I've gone through a couple of these. But what I'll do is take you through maybe 2 or 3 of these tactics, just to give you an idea of what's in there and some of the things that you can actually start applying. So we can move on to the first one, which is going to be looking at our data capture overlay. And this strategy, I think, is really, really important for all customers. And the more you know about your customers, the better your messaging is going to eventually be. And it's really, really simple to implement these type of overlays onto your site. Normally doesn't require much work from web development teams, just a small sort of implementation process. And it's going to get a lot of ways which you can start communicating with your clients. And a lot of you might be thinking, oh, we already do data overlays on our site, but there's actually loads and loads of room for improvement when it comes to these. So the starting thing to think is, who can see what content in these overlays? And one of my biggest annoyances is when I click through from an email, I land on a website, and the first thing I see is a pop-up which asks me for my email address, sign up to the marketing list. So this is crazy. I mean, if I've just clicked through an email, one of your emails, and landed on your site, I'm definitely signed up. So these are the type of things that you need to be thinking about. And if you want to be customer obsessed, you need to be using all of the data that you have at hand to optimize all these different processes. So if you are running data capture overlays, when someone lands on your site, you need to be using that information. What do you know about them? Are they already on your emailer list? Are they one of your high value customers? Anything that you know about them, you should be using to personalize that experience. So whether that's actually looking for that sign up form for those new people, or just having personalized content for everyone else, that needs to be something that you're thinking about, rather than just a blanket data capture for absolutely everyone who lands on the site. Second one that we can think about today is our unified customers profile. So this is all about linking data back into one place, something that Aria mentioned earlier as well. The idea of a CDP, allowing you to actually combine all those different data sets, link it back to a single customer. Once you have that, you're going to be able to produce some really, really powerful marketing campaigns. So once it's in there as well, it doesn't really matter what channel you choose, email, SMS, mobile, push, paid advertising, having all the customer data in one place is going to be key. And if you're looking to be customer obsessed, it's a good idea to start thinking about which of those different channels you should be communicating to these people over, working out where they're engaging. If they're really into email, let's make sure we target them on email. If it's mobile push through an app, let's make sure we're sending them those messages. And again, if you want to be customer obsessed, you need to know as much as you can about your customers. But the more you know, the more you need to use. And one of the worst things to do is collect all this data, have loads and loads of information about your customers, store it in an amazing CDP, but then do absolutely nothing with it. So it's going to be key that once you have all that data, you start using it. The last one that we'll look at today is segment analytics. When you're creating your content, producing your different campaigns, you're probably creating different segments of your customers or your contacts so that you can be a little bit more targeted with that messaging. And the more first-party data and the more zero-party data that you're collecting, the more targeted you can be there. Once you start using all of these different segments, you're probably going to want to make sure that they're working correctly. A lot of people create segments, use them without actually any testing, and they normally just assume that it's working for them. But being able to analyze these different segments, work out how effective they are, how efficient they are in your different marketing, that's going to be really key as well. If you have a customer insights platform, then all of that different possibility will be available for you. So being able to measure all your different campaigns, work out how effective those different specific groups are, that's going to be really key. And another thing that's important is thinking about having this available in real time. So if you run a campaign that's spanning over a month, and then at the end of the campaign, you get your results and you work out how it worked, that's okay. But if you have to actually wait that time, then you're missing out on that opportunity of optimizing your campaign as it's running. So if you're getting your information back in real time and you have the ability to actually optimize that, then what are those changes going to be for you? Can you catch any problems as they're happening, or can you optimize that whole process during the campaign? And that's obviously going to be a lot more effective than waiting until the end. So just giving you those 3 quick insights. If any of these have been interesting to you, I'd suggest definitely logging on to the Improve Your Marketing website. The link's in the chat now. And as I said, there was a starting with 100 in there. I think we've got around 110, 115 in there now, and it's growing every day. So definitely check that out. And if that's not enough, then even more, the first 10 of you sign up today will get a free 30-minute consultation with our team. And what we'll be doing in that consultation is looking at some different strategies that might suit your business specifically, and thinking about how we can apply those to your 2021 strategy. Okay, so next up, we'll be talking to Josh Beal. He's got 10 years experience in working in digital marketing. He works with different brands to develop different strategies. and helps transform them into digital-first companies. So, Josh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Dave.
Guys, did you want to launch the second poll just before we get into the Q&A?
Yeah, that's a great idea, David. Yeah, so the second one's going to be around customer obsession.
So again, for the benefit of anyone that's not seeing it, the question is, how customer obsessed is your business? And the options are very, a bit, but we could be more, not at all, and I'm not sure what customer obsession is.
Hopefully it's not the last one after today.
Yeah, if it's the last one from all of you, I'll be very upset, but I will understand.
I find your presentations always work better when we can hear them, Mario.
Oh, cheers, David. If you said it earlier, I'd be very upset.
Yeah, that's because they're so very good and insightful. We all like a bit of a Zoom fall over now and again. It just proves that we're so reliant on it. Right, I'm just watching the votes go up. I think we might be getting to the end. Let's give it another few seconds. Okay, so let me share the results and I'll let you guys speak to these.
Probably as we're expecting again, we probably assume that most people could do a little bit more. Normally when it comes to strategy, people have got a lot of things implemented, but there's always a little bit of room for improvement. So whether you're in the very camp or you're in the wish we could do a little bit more, there's probably still bits that we can add to that. So that's always good to hear.
Excellent.
All right, great. We'll get into talking to Josh then. So one thing that happened before everyone signed up to today is that you had the option to add a question. And we've gone through a couple of those questions and we'll be posing a couple of those to Josh now. After the first two, what we'll do is open up the floor. Anyone who likes to turn on their camera, ask a question live, please feel free to do so. If you don't feel like doing it in person, then feel like you can put it in the chat and we'll be able to pick those up and ask those to Josh as well. So the first one we'll start with then is someone asked, how can we impress our customers before the whole purchase process begins?
Yeah, so like this is a really interesting one because like once we know a customer has purchased, we obviously get transaction information, we get a lot of intent information about what they're doing, and that's when the typical kind of cross sells, upsells, these type of programs come into play. But when we're trying to push them to that first purchase, we should really start gathering all of their kind of intent data, their browsing habits. All of this type of information needs to be brought through into our communication strategies. So we've got a load of different examples here. So users can come on to our website from many different locations. They could come in from social or social advertising. It could be inspirational content from Instagram. It could be that they signed up to that pop-up that came onto the website the first time that they are a new browsing user, and we decide to market to them in a certain way. So it's really understanding that individual's customer journey, like where you can bring all that data together and then tailoring that content appropriately. Because I've come in from Instagram, it might be right for me to hear kind of more kind of shopper engagement around reviews and scoring and all of these different types of things around the product. It could be more lifestyle kind of imagery that I need to have, that kind of content approach to the sale. So it's not a one size fits all, as you can imagine, because there's so many different journeys where users are discovering your brand. It's very hard to signpost someone, even using Google, to say, you have to enter our website through this way only. They're not. They're discovering you from so many different means. So this is what our brands need to do. They need to really understand the journey of which every single user is on and kind of tailor their content appropriately. And yes, we can use hyper personalization or recommendations at scale and see what the crowd is doing. But falling back to what the crowd is doing is not what that individual is doing, if you get what I mean. So yeah, we've really got to try and look at that individual journey, personalize the recommendations, the content, whichever part of your business you're in. And then you can kind of create that right life cycle for the user. So yes, this all happens even before that first purchase is made. So yeah, if we can think about the journey and how users are discovering the brand, how we can market to them on the right channel, like say email might not be the right first channel, it could be back on social, it could be social retargeting. It's just those key different things, and make sure that it's all working in unison and that yeah, you're really reacting to the customer where they're coming in on, and then hopefully you can get them to that first conversion point.
So that sort of leads on to the next question really well then, which is how should we balance the demands of our existing core customers against growth into new customers?
Yeah, and I think this is a really big one that marketers have a lot of focus on. So the start of every year, I'm sure everyone says we want to grow our marketing database by 10, 15, 20%, whatever it may be. And that sometimes gets our laser focus for the first 3 months of the year. However, what has been happening through 2019, 2020, and even during COVID times, especially with the explosion of online, I was reading a stat the other day that 40% of GDP in the UK is from non-grocery is now coming through online channels. So 40%, and that is up quite considerably from about 18% year on year. And that's still happening during the kind of the reopening up of the economy and lockdown coming down. So we've got to really be like ensuring that we're meeting our demands of our customers, and the customers that we've already acquired are the bread and butter of most of our businesses. I've seen lots of our businesses that we're working with, actually 80% of their revenue comes from even 20% of their core loyal list kind of activity. So yeah, we just really have to focus on some of those key kind of strategies. Yes, acquisition is important. New name, life cycles that come on the back of new name, always going to be a valuable channel, but let's think about some of the life cycles to our existing customers. Can we use the RFM? Can we segment it a little bit better accordingly? Can we do things like category triggers, finding users who are in market within our existing customer base? These are all things that we work with our brands on, like Homebase and Entertainer, and I do work with PepsiCo and Diageo globally, right? So these are things that these marketers are really focusing on because they're understanding the importance of that zero party, the first party data, and what they already have. So yes, there's a lot of revenue is coming from those existing users. So don't neglect them. Don't just do that kind of BAU widespread spray and pray email because you know it's going to drive you revenue. Yes, but at a certain point, they will be churning away from your brand. So you have to get segmented, you have to get targeted, and you have to kind of laser in on the key focus areas by joining up all that data. And therefore, yeah, the existing customer strategy piece is something that we really try and tailor in on, and then look at lots of individual programs. And there's a lot in that tactics playbook, as you mentioned, that can help there as well. Loads of different strategies that can come in, but yeah, your back in stocks, your price drops to the existing users, these category triggers, these in-market triggers. If you can find those kind of inflection points and then target to your users on the back of those, you're going to be able to get out to market quicker. And that's where your competitors can't kind of swoop in as well. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
Definitely.
Just taking a look, we'll give this opportunity now if anyone does want to bring themselves off of mute or turn the webcam on, and I'll take this opportunity if anyone wants to jump in and ask us a question, or ask Josh preferably a question here. If not, I have got a couple more questions lined up that I can see people asked when they did join, but I'll just give 5 seconds there if anyone wants to come on. No pressure. All right.
Aria, we've got something that's coming through, and maybe something for you to expand on there, Josh. How do FMCG brands like Diageo, how do they gather their first-party data that maybe could be differently gathered by a retailer or a normal e-com?
Yeah, so this is the conundrum with the packaged goods and then the join into online digital. So when we're working with guys like Diageo, PepsiCo brands, Lay's, Walker's, Tropicana, Gatorade, you mentioned it. These guys are always running kind of either on-pack promotions, driving to digital executed channels, whether that be voucher, promo, campaign. Thankfully, like, these brands have got a good global presence and obviously have a big shelf space in physical stores as well. But it's all around now about owning that first party data. So previously, the retailers would pick that up, like the Sainsbury's of this world and the shops and those guys. They would have all of that data through the loyalty cards and the Nectars and everything like this. But the FMCG, as you can see with Unilever, P&G, who we also work with, P&G over here at Matt as well, they're all about now trying to own that customer relationship themselves because they see that value in the first party data. When they run a campaign for the next quarter, they don't want to have to go back out to Facebook, to YouTube, and acquire the same customers they've already engaged with from a previous campaign. They've got a load of good users who are engaging with their activity. So there's lots of different tactics to do that. Quite a lot of them experiential, gamification type things, campaign spin-ups that they're doing, small microsites which allow them to drive customers to for data collection purposes. And then it's about utilizing that data. Yes, from a first party kind of execution perspective, but also then the join into like retargeting strategies and the ad buy to make sure they're not rebuying the kind of the first party they've already collected, because there's a lot of advertising dollar that goes into getting those users engaged in the campaign in the first place. So yeah, with these FMCG brands that we're working with, it's all about then, once they've got that customer for the first time, yes, re-engaging them with these campaign executions, but then also not just buying the same customer again and again off Facebook, off Google, because it's expensive, right? So yeah, that's how these guys are tending to do it. But yeah, normally campaign engagements, gamification style, those things tend to work well, especially when there's no like kind of discount involved sometimes, or it's those kind of campaign mechanics. I've got plenty of examples, but I probably can't share them all now. A bit too client specific.
Josh, we know you've got plenty of examples that you could go on for. What I'll do is I can see here we've got a few other questions that come in the chat. So if we've got a bit of time, which I think we do, I'll put one more to you, Josh.
Cool.
So one of the questions here, I quite like this one. A few people actually asked similar questions to this. How can I prove to our senior stakeholders that putting customer experience above things like cutting costs will create more value for the company in the long term?
Yeah, cool. So I think from my perspective and how I see this, that trust up the board is really important, obviously, to get buy-in to a technology platform or a practice that your business is going to go through. It's a kind of fundamental change at the end of the day, which some businesses are going through in these times. But for me, the real kind of win to the stakeholders is about loyalty and repeat purchase. So if you can drive loyalty and repeat purchase within your existing customer base and make those margins there, then yes, that's really going to help, obviously, that bottom line. How can you turn that, your average 1.6 orders on an annual person, from 1.6 to 2.4? How can you drive that AOV from 35 to 46? Like, these are things that we're constantly monitoring for our clients. We're picking individual tactics and segments to try and work this on. So yes, how do we look at our new acquisition tactics? How do we look at the existing base? What can we drive through? Because if you get that kind of focus on, let's say, the 80% of your users who are making you that revenue, the 20% of users are making you that 80% of your revenue, and you grow that segment out, it's going to make a massive difference to the bottom line. So yeah, I would say those type of things, loyalty, experience, and then layering that with hyper personalization. So personalization at scale really is beneficial here, and that's where you need your behavioral tools to be able to do that kind of machine learning AI type stuff, to be able to inject all of that great personalized content, whether that be offer or articles if you're in more of a B2B world. Just get that laser focused kind of content or product under those users. Once you've done that, use your CDP or your tools that you have available to do that enhanced segmentation. So yeah, bring that web behavior, bring that e-commerce, bring that preference, bring that zero party all in one place, and then really hammer it home with the personalization that you can bring over the top. If you can automate that with lovely like kind of hierarchical flows of what's most important to your business, taking out that kind of over marketing thresholds, these are all things we've got to look at just to make sure we are in a good cadence with the customer and making sure we're not over marketing on channel. If you can do all of this in one space, which is quite challenging, but this is what we're looking at with our retailers especially, then you can come into a really strong kind of strategy where you are able to still do your list growth. You're not churning off your list as well. And you're also able to kind of market on multi-channels. It's not just email, it's SMS, it's mobile push, it's into social as well, and how we utilize that first party data. So it's that join now, and we're all marketers here that we should be using every channel which we have to kind of bring this together as well.
Thank you, Josh. David from Masterclassing, do we have time for one more question?
Yeah, I think if anyone desperately needs to drop off for another call, they will do so. Yeah, go for it.
All right, cool. Again, I'll just give an opportunity there. If anyone would like to bring themselves off mute, I'm just going to keep asking. Now's your chance, really. Feel free to jump in.
I think it's a bigger group mentality. Smaller groups, you tend to get more people, cameras on and talking. There's a lot of people in the room today, so I wouldn't worry too much about it.
All right, brilliant. In which case, I'll take one from one of the entry questions that we had here. Another one that I saw on the list I quite liked was too much personalization is sometimes perceived as intrusive and can put people off. How can we be customer obsessed without annoying our customers?
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think lots of different industries have different challenges here, so it's going to be quite hard to answer across every sector, whether that be travel, hospitality, retail, FMCG, but I get it that it can be very scary to your customers. But I think with the kind of systemic change, that everyone has, every one of your customers will have shopped on Amazon at some point, I'm sure. So Amazon, as an example, they were kind of very early doors. I don't say they do it perfectly by any stretch, but they are very heavy in terms of those kind of recommendations and products and pushes. The Wayfairs of this world probably kind of bombard you a little bit too strongly. Sorry if anyone from Wayfairs here, but yeah, there's kind of, they're very hyper personalized and very triggered and automated. So I think what we've just got to be careful of is using personalization in the right way. There are lots of things which are very intelligent in there, so like kind of social proofing on product sales or brought into product recs in email, which add that level of kind of assurance to the customer that we can actually it is valid, it's socially valid, everyone else is buying it, people are browsing, but kind of overdone, it can be a little bit off-putting. So you've got to kind of have that kind of fine line about what is right for your brand, what is helpful to the customer without being too kind of, whoa, you know all of this. And for what we're showing to the customer, I'll probably know 80-90% more than the customer will ever see. But it's using it tactically, right? And it's using it not too overtly to scare people away from the personalization activity. It's using it to enhance their experience. So yeah, using it wisely, looking where we're doing that, bringing the reviews in, bringing the other content pieces in where appropriate. It's all personalization. It's just done in a kind of different way. So it's a tricky challenge to kind of go on, because sometimes we know too much, and it's about then just scaling it back, doing what is right. And those recommendations, those kind of just for you things, they're much cleverer than it's just for you, right? There's a lot going on behind them. There's AI, there's filters, there's recs, there's product categories, there's all the stuff that we're doing behind the scenes. But we don't go and write your AI machine-led product recommendations, right? We just got to tone it back to the customer, because that's what we're doing, but we just don't want to like scare them away, right? So yeah, just be very tactile with it. And I think that really adds to their experience on site.
Thank you, Josh. David and I have both got questions here that have come in from the chat. David, I think we've only got time for one more, so I'll get back to some of my questions after the session. David, do you want to ask one of yours there?
Yeah, it's actually quite a nice closing question, actually. If you could do only one thing in 2021, what would it be?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's going to be a really dry answer this, but I think everyone should go back to the data you have within your business. So spend some time doing a data audit. I speak with so many customers who don't truly understand what they have against their customer record. And there's a lot of things that your tools can currently do, which you might not be enriching your profile against. Are you adding geolocation data against your users? Are you truly taking every single email link click that they're doing on, categorizing those users? Are you bringing that category as a timestamp against the record? Some simple things that these tools do, which we might not be leveraging already, and that will start to enrich those profiles for you. So it's about data audit, know what you've got, and it's about using the tools you've either currently got or are going to buy into to get data enrichment. And then that will really make this systemic change. So if you don't have web browsing against your data at the moment and that join against the customer, you're missing out on all that in-market experience, which your startups are pretty much all over. So yeah, there's that piece. But yeah, data audit first, understand what you've currently got, look at your tools and your automations and your triggers and your categories and some of your key basics really, and make sure you're tagging the data. And then when you start layering all of that together with then the campaign strategies we've already discussed, then you can start to execute on the kind of well-oiled machine type kind of life cycles in there as well. So take it back to the data, got to look there, and then yeah, you should be able to really see what you can utilize, and then you can see what you might need enhancing. Like, are we missing social? Are we missing our ad impressions? Are we this? And therefore, you can bring it all together and request those tools if you need it.
Thanks a lot, Josh. Some really, really good stuff in there. So I think that's all we've really got time for today. We'll obviously be following up with all those extra questions from the chat personally after this. But yeah, I guess maybe back over to David from Masterclassing, unless Josh.
Yeah, just to close things off, there's a link in the chat to the feedback form. If you could take a minute to fill that in, we'd really appreciate it. I'm also just going to repost a link to the Improve Your Marketing site, because it's a fantastic free resource, I believe. If I'm using the wrong word there, guys, jump in and stop me, but certainly to a certain point it is. Loads of great examples and real life things you can do. And then I just want to say a few quick thank yous. I know I need to do one other thing before that. So there's a feedback form. This is a thing called Connect, which we launched recently. It's another way that we're trying to help brands find the right digital marketing partners, companies like Matt, to work with. If you want to find out more about that, head to masterclassing.com and click on the Connect tab, or just email Matt at masterclassing.com for more details on that. The last thing to say is a big thank you to Aria, to David and to Josh, especially to the two guys for running the Q&A much better than I could have done it, and it saved me a job. I've just been sitting here looking out the window, enjoying the day and listening to the answers, so that was all very good. Thanks also to Rick, who was ready and waiting to come back to any of the comments in the chat. It wasn't required as it happened, but I know it's everyone's been sitting and listening and taking everything in, so thanks last but not least to all of you. It's been a long and a strange year, and I think everyone will be glad to see the back of it, that things are looking a bit brighter. And as it is now, 2nd of December, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. I think everyone on this call and elsewhere deserves a good one. So whatever you're doing for the rest of the day, have a good one, and thanks again for your time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.